This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Outcomes Rocket. So glad you tuned in again on our new series of founder stories. I'm so pumped to be bringing stories from the best entrepreneurs in the business. And today, I have the privilege of hosting JLD, John Lee Dumas. You guys have heard him, but it was years ago. Let me give you a quick bio on him. He's the founder and host of the award-winning podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, with over 175 million listens of 4,000 plus episodes. JLD has turned Entrepreneurs on Fire into a media empire that generates over 7 figures of net, capital N-E-T, net annual revenue, 12 years in running. He's actually a mentor of mine. If you guys haven't heard the story, we'll chat about it a little bit here, but it is such a pleasure to have you back, John.
Saul, it's great to connect. We've got quite the history together, and I can remember back when Outcome Rockets was just a little baby of an idea, and to see what it's become and just how long you've been rocking this and it stood the test of time. It's a true success story.
Hey, man, and I appreciate that. And I give you a lot of credit. A lot of people in the healthcare industry, which is where we're focused on, think I'm crazy. We've done over almost 1,700 episodes right now with the most amazing thought leaders in healthcare. But you guys got to know where that started. I invested in a program with John. I flew to Puerto Rico to be with him. And now I'm in Puerto Rico living here because of his playbook. And so I want to give John a chance to really give you his background. We'll uncover that a little bit more. But John, tell us about you, your story. What got you started in entrepreneurship?
Well, first off, it's a good playbook, so I definitely commend you for following that playbook for sure. For me, listen, I'm just a country boy from the state of Maine, grew up in a really small town, didn't know what I was doing, was just focused on sports and girls for the first 18 years of my life, went to college on an Army scholarship. After college, was an officer in the U.S. Army for 8 years, did a 13-month tour of duty in Iraq. Appreciate that. Did a stint in law school, corporate finance, commercial real estate, just bopped around trying my hand at different things, failed at most of them, disliked most of them as well, which is probably why I failed. And it was like 32 years old and just, man, I've done some cool things. I've lived a pretty cool life. I got some money in the bank, but I'm not really happy with my career trajectory at this point. So I really just tripled down onto things like reading business books and biographies of successful men and women, consuming content around those topics and learning so much. And then I started saying, man, I love reading these biographies and learning about the lives of successful people. I love listening to audiobooks, which led me into podcast interviews of these amazing entrepreneurs and stories and people. And finally, I said, I need to do that. I just want to be that person on the other side of the mic so I can ask questions, so that I can connect, so that I can network with these people and pick their brains with the questions that I have. And that gave me the idea back in 2012 to launch the first daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. That's 7 days a week. That's 365 per year. Entrepreneurs on Fire. And now we're 4,486 episodes in, 175 million listens. Get to meet cool people like Saul and have him come down to Puerto Rico to hatch his grand business plan that has now landed him on this lovely island so that we can keep the money we make, which we might get into later. And life is good. Life is good.
That's awesome, John. Truly inspiring. I remember when I first found you, I was just looking for that inspiration too. And then I saw this guy that was just all in on his mission and attracting all these amazing names. I remember one of the first ones that sort of got my eye was Tony Robbins, right? And then all the other ones that I started unpacking. When you got into it, it wasn't always clear. And a lot of the leaders listening to this podcast are probably in the same space. What was your aha moment when you knew you found the right value prop, the right product market fit?
The right product market fit in my mind, pre-launch, before I launched Entrepreneurs on Fire, was, hey, what am I complaining about with the other podcasts? My main complaint, the main thing I thought they were doing wrong or just not doing was quantity. Everybody was
Hmm.
producing 1 episode per week, 2 episodes per month. And it wasn't enough for me as a consumer because I was listening to 1 episode a day, 2 episodes a day. So in a couple of weeks, I was already through like a year's worth of their content and it just wasn't enough. And I said, where's the daily podcast that's interviewing entrepreneurs, that's putting out content at that frequency? Because I am a voracious consumer of this content. I'm driving in my car every day. I'm hitting the gym. I'm working out. I'm folding laundry. Like I want to be consuming the right content during all these hours that I have of free time because I'm stuck doing something else, like driving a car or like lifting weights, fill in the blank. And so that was the value proposition was, hey, I'm going to be the first daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. That was the aha moment. I'm going to be the best daily podcast the day that I launch interviewing entrepreneurs. I'm going to be the worst daily podcast in the world the day that I launch interviewing entrepreneurs. I'm going to be the only daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs in the world. And guess what? I was all of those things. I was the best. I was the worst. I was the only daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. And I wrote a whole book on one thesis: become the number one solution to a real problem in this world. I became the number one solution to a real problem because there was a lot of people like me that had a problem where none of the podcasts that were producing content were doing that thing, producing enough content for them. I solved that problem. I became the number one solution to that problem. And guess what? Just like back in the 90s when Blockbuster was the only video rental store in town, so whether you loved them or hated them, you had to rent from them. Love me or hate me, I was the only show in town doing that. And I was the only show in the world doing that. And that's why I won.
That's awesome. And that sort of first factor, by the way, just to park there for a second, John is really giving us major value here. Be that number one solution to that big problem. And that's a testament to having your niche. For the longest time, we've been solely focused on healthcare, but within healthcare, everybody listening understands that there's a niche and the riches are in the niches. That's where the opportunities are. John did that and he has crushed it. And now, John, you're doing a lot of things. I remember you launched Podcaster's Paradise. You started coming up with these innovations. Tell us about your go-to-market approach. How did you decide on the focus areas? Once you knew, then it's time to develop the channel strategy, right? Talk to us about that.
That's the best part is we don't have to come up with the strategy. We just have to create amazing content. We have to create amazing solutions to real problems. When you do that, you build an audience. When you have an audience, you ask them, what is your biggest struggle right now? And they tell you what their struggles are. And then you decide which one of those struggles you want to create a solution for, whether that be with a product or a service or coaching or a mastermind. And I've done all those things. Like Saul saw one of the solutions that I was offering and he came to my house in Puerto Rico and I delivered that solution to him. I've created Podcaster's Paradise, Webinar on Fire. I've written 4 journals, 1 book, tons of masterminds, both small and big. I've done one-on-one coaching, one-to-many coaching. Like I've asked my audience what they want, what they need, and I deliver that solution. And so that's the step-by-step process.
Hey, John, and I want to park there for a second because I feel like we've got to unpack this. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. And I think a lot of people don't spend the time asking the question, how can I help you? What is your problem? Just to center on that, I want to highlight your book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success. And there's a lot of this wisdom sprinkled in there. If you guys haven't read it, I'll link it up in the show notes so you can check it out.
It's not sprinkled. It is doused like a fire hydrant.
Amen, brother. Amen. It is doused. And so unpack that book for us in the context of asking those questions.
Here's the deal. The Common Path to Uncommon Success is, in my opinion, one of the best business books ever written. And I can say that and still be humble and still have humility because it's not my genius. It is the genius of the over 4,000 genius entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, learned from, absorbed, and then I put into a 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. So if you don't want financial freedom and fulfillment in your life, that is totally fine. Do not read my book. If you want that, then you read the book. And if you don't read the book and you want that, it's your own fault for not having that. There's a reason why 1% of people have absolutely disproportionate success in this world. It's because there's only 1% of people that are willing to put in the work, to have the discipline and the focus and to do the things that the geniuses who have been there and done that are telling them to do. That's the only reason that I'm disproportionately successful, is because I listen to the people who I interview and I execute on their genius, on their success. I am able to avoid their failures and emulate their successes. Like, that is such a key process that so many people just never pick up on. And it's right there in front of them.
Well, that's awesome, John. And folks, just look, we're kicking off this series, Founder Stories. And I just wanted to have John to be part of this conversation because my founder story, I learned a lot about him from him. And you too, as we share often, it's the 4 M's: model, mimic, master, multiply. And John did just that. He did the 4 M's beautifully. And the multiplication happens when he started reaching out to other people to help them do their thing. Like, he and I connected. So think about that for yourself. That's where the secret is. The secret is there is no secret. It's a common path, and very few people take it. John, how would you close us out today? What call to action, and where can people listen to your podcast, and where do you want them to go?
Listen, this is a very simple call to action. It's a quote from Albert Einstein, which is, try not to become a person of success, but rather a person of value. So many people are chasing success. They're chasing money, but they're missing the one key thing, which, by the way, I missed for 32 years of my life. And that was, how am I making somebody else's life better? How am I adding value to this world? How am I delivering free, valuable, and consistent content? Well, the answer is you're not. Almost nobody is. Saul is for 1,700 days in a row now. I am for well over 4,000 days in a row now. Where are you? Have you done it for 2 days in a row yet? Probably not. So you're really wondering why you're not having the type of success that you want when you can't even string 2 days together of delivering real value. And by the way, real value is delivering the number one solution to a real problem in this world. I mean, is there another podcast, Saul, that's daily delivering the type of content in the healthcare space that you're delivering?
We're the only one.
Because you're number one. You're number one of one. And that's an amazing place to be. And that's why you're in Puerto Rico, paying a flat 4% tax rate, no federal tax, no state tax, 0% capital gains. I hope you have some cryptocurrency, because we're about to go on a massive bull run and there's 0% capital gains. So all the money we're about to make in cryptocurrency, you don't have to pay any taxes on, which is amazing.
It's huge.
And it's an exciting world when you do the things that we're talking about here today. You can find out all you need to find out about me at eofire.com. My podcast is Entrepreneurs on Fire. Saul was on it. He rocked the mic. You can listen to that episode by searching for his name on my website. You can check out the podcast. We deliver an amazing interview with an inspiring entrepreneur 7 days a week. And it's not an hour long. It's not 2 hours long. It's 17 minutes. It's 19 minutes. I keep them short and sweet because your time is valuable and I don't need fluff and I don't need excess chatty chat, which we've done none of today, by the way, which is why Saul's great. We just deliver value. That's our focus. And it's been great catching up with you, man.
John, it's been such a pleasure. We're grateful for you joining us today and dropping the value that you always do. Walking the walk. And for everybody listening, check out the show notes. You're going to find all the ways to get in touch with John, learn more about what he does, but most importantly, get those lessons that are going to help you become a better founder in your space here in healthcare. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And John, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
This podcast is produced by Outcomes Rocket, your healthcare exclusive digital marketing agency. Outcomes Rocket exists to help healthcare organizations like yours to maximize their impact and accelerate growth. Visit outcomesrocket.com or text us at 312-224-9945.